a recap from yesterday. We learned some new information about that school in Canada, part of the Mission Public School District. Mother's Day, Father's Day canceled in the classroom. Parents outraged, people outraged, some supporting it on social media, and we saw all of your comments yesterday. I want to go ahead and bring in Josh. Come on over, Josh. He's part of our digital team. You really track everything that's going on behind the scenes. You had a chance, and correct me if I'm wrong, come a little closer so we can hear you on the mic. Come on, Josh.
Do you guys want me to read the letter real fast?
Yeah, read the letter, recap what that letter, and this is the letter that was sent out to the parents telling them that Mother's Day, Father's Day has been canceled. Go ahead, Dina.
So again, this was a school in Canada, and they said, dear parents, as Mother's Day and Father's Day approach, we have met as a primary grades 1 and 2 team to discuss our core values, all in an effort to celebrate diversity, inclusivity, and to nurture our students who are a part of non-traditional families. We have decided to encourage those celebrations to take place at home. Due to this, the children will not be making gifts at school to give on Mother's Day and Father's Day. We feel each family knows the best way to celebrate with their own family. And yesterday, we didn't really have the full context of why this letter went out. What was it that triggered it?
That triggered it. Was it something traumatic? And in fact, it was. You had a chance. Did you speak directly with the superintendent?
I did.
Angus Wilson?
Angus Wilson, yeah. He was actually really quick to respond to my emails at first. And so I was kind of surprised by that when we first started talking.
Right.
But as soon as I started talking to him, you know, he broke it down what was going on. He provided that context, and essentially what was missing was apparently there was an event, like some sort of traumatic event is what he kind of called it. Involving,
that happened to a student? Okay.
Yeah, happened to a student at the school. He wouldn't go too much into like the specifics of exactly what happened, just to kind of make sure that the privacy was maintained. Yeah, exactly, of the student was maintained. But what he told me was it was, you know, essentially there was no cabal or political strategy behind why they did it. There was an event that happened. You know, a student felt as though maybe he was being harassed or bullied or something like that, and so to protect that student's parents, they just decided that it was best to cancel those kinds of events.
Okay, so I guess bottom line, because of one student's traumatic experience, they felt it was in their best interest, at least at this one Canadian elementary school, to cancel Mother's Day and Father's Day. And by canceling it, they don't mean that it does not exist. In that letter, it does state we feel and we hope that everyone will celebrate at home in their own special way, whether you have 2 moms, 2 dads, only a mom, only a dad, or no parents at all. You should be able to celebrate the moms and dads, even if they're figures in your life, in a special way. We're going to leave the arts and crafts out of the classroom this year. And you know what? I step back and I look at it and say, okay, obviously this traumatic incident was enough for this school in Canada to make that decision. Because yes, the superintendent, Mr. Wilson, thank you for, if you're watching this right now, for speaking with us. Yes, and for getting back to us so quick. I mean, we make phone calls all the time and people will just, we don't have to respond to things, right? But the fact that he did is great. I'm sure he doesn't appreciate the fact that everyone's coming at him with their opinions, but we all have them. But I sit back and I go, okay, well, he explained his issue, and if those are what he feels needs to be the rules and regulations, you guys know how I feel about that, for that year, then so be it. Who am I to judge? I'm not a teacher, I'm not a parent, I'm not a superintendent.
And sometimes, again, without saying too much, sometimes you just know, okay, then maybe we need to shut it down. Because if something, like Megan said, if something so traumatic happens to the point where you're saying, you know what, we can't even celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day here in the school, or we can't do anything to kind of highlight those 2 events, we need to shut it down, then as someone who's not even involved or even there, I'm kind of like now, like, yeah, maybe we don't know their life, we don't know what's going on, so I guess you got to put the kibosh on it sometimes.
And let me remind you, this was for grades 1 and 2. 1st and 2nd graders.
Babies.
I mean, these little babies, you know, they may have a different set of parents, and they haven't gotten to that point in their maturity levels yet to know how to deal with it and to know how to handle it in the right ways at school. And I think if you do take a step back, I know a lot of you commented, we had more than 120 comments on the updated story just this morning within the last hour, the one that Josh just put up. And I think a lot of you are saying, you know, we're too PC nowadays, we're trying too hard to protect the feelings. These are little kids, 6, 7, 8 years old. I mean, if bullying is starting that young, if that is in fact what happened here, you have to imagine that that school, it's not high school, where these teachers are going, you know what, you're 16, figure it out. These are little kids. Who's going to protect those kids if not the teachers and the principals and the authoritative figures at those schools. Who else is going to do it? So hearing more about that story now, I think, you know, if that was what they felt like they needed to do to go to that drastic measure, I'm sure they had a good reason.
There was another interesting aspect when I was talking with Angus about it. He mentioned that most of the parents who received the letter understood why it was being sent. And the vitriol and some of the negative comments that he was receiving were from people who weren't even living in the small town.
Canada.
Yeah, it was mostly through like social media and like a certain post getting shared so many times, and people kind of, that snowball effect of how like the virality of stories.
Just like when we shared it, you know, yesterday, and we didn't know the full context and the whole breadth of the situation. I think a lot of our first thought was, what's the reason? And if it is because of a death in the family, God forbid, is that a reason to cancel Mother's Day celebrations? But now I think we have a little bit more information.
Yeah, and I think the question now goes to, is it just something like a death in the family, or is there something happening in the school regarding the holiday? You know what I mean? Because if it's just something where, okay, mom passed, that's unfortunate, yes. And then once you leave school, you still have to see cards, or you still have to be reminded of that. You can't protect that. But if there's an issue within the school for some reason, your job as an administrator and as teachers, number one is to educate and to protect the kids. So I think we really need to look at that.
Yeah, and I'm looking here. Jennifer Stewart says, well, thank you for chiming in, Jennifer. So my mother passed away on Thanksgiving, so does everyone not celebrate that holiday? And I get the points of people saying all those things because of one student. Why is this affecting so many? And could the school in turn and in fact use this one incident as a way to teach them, you know, you're going to have to go the rest of your life without a mother or a father. This is a different way of handling it. The world's going to continue to move on and to continue a holiday. How do we want to commemorate your mother or father? I can see that is one approach, but having a lot of family members who work in the public education system, it's not always that easy. Just to say, okay, we're going to teach them to do something a little different. And like to Cornelia's point, if it's bullying, sometimes you got to shake things up. And to the bullies out there, this is what you're doing. You're causing everyone around you to not have a special time, which is making arts and crafts for mom and dad. So this is a lesson for those kids who are bullying first and second grade.
But that's what I was going to say. You know that if it's, how many stories have we looked at? The little white boy whose best friend was black, who wanted the haircut the same so they would look the same. Right?
I remember that story,
A lot of people will go back to the race issue and the social issues, and at what age is it learned? At what age is it taught? At what age are you just influenced by your peers? So does that then go back to the parents' conversations at home? You know, how could this have been handled differently? Maybe the administrator sent out a note to the families. Rather than canceling, maybe they sent to the families saying, hey, this is what's going on at school. We have families of different backgrounds. Please talk to your kids. Please make sure that you have conversations with them to let them know that this is happening, rather than canceling the activities. I don't know if that would have been any better, but it's like these little first and second graders weren't born with the knowledge that they needed to be bullies. But if somebody looks different, if someone's family looks different on the surface, at that age too, you can't fault them for going, hey, how come your mom and dad look different than mine?
And what constitutes as bullying? If they're saying something that's like, why do you have, just say it's the fact that they have two mommies. Why do you have two mommies? That could offend the child who has the two mommies, but is that bullying or is that curiosity? But again, this is us digging. If the superintendent said trauma, I have to imagine that it was something that affected this child to an extent where they had to cancel an entire holiday. Chai Tran, though, says one bad person is expelled, that's it. Like he's saying, you don't want he or she, I'm not sure,
take it out on the whole.
Take it out on all these first and second graders and the parents who don't get the special arts and crafts at home.
And I think going back to, let's say it is a case of bullying and now Mother's Day and Father's Day celebrations are shut down. What are you teaching your kids? Because if your kid is the reason why the activities are shut down, then you need to be teaching your kid what you should and shouldn't be doing in regards to other students, and you don't need to get a Mother's Day card because your kid out here bullying. Like, let's keep it real. That's part of it. Right, like you don't get the card. So
and we have two comments I can read. On that note, to continue Cornelia's point, Chai Tran says, or Chi Tran, my apologies. Did you read this one yet?
The expulsion or detention?
This one of it's tradition that teachers show them how to teach them to honor thy father and thy mother.
Yes.
A lot of kids learn how to respect their parents through the teacher saying, hey, you love your mom, write down why, right?
Yeah.
And then also Donna Dobbins says, if they cancel because of one student from being bullied, or they think, what do they think is going to happen to that student when the rest of the students find out he was the reason? It would be worse for that young student.
Right,
then.
is he going to get
You know,
more bullied?
Yeah, is he going to say, I'm the reason everyone has to cancel this holiday now. Now is it going to be worse for him?
I hope not. Going back to Josh, did Superintendent Wilson, did he say if this, is it going to be canceled for the rest of the Canadian schools' eternity?
Right. And so that's really the question, and he couldn't really elaborate on that at the time. I think, I mean, it would be presumptuous of me to say one way or the other whether or not this is something that they're going to.
Did it sound like just this year?
It sounded as though there was, like I said, there was that event that happened.
So for Father's Day too.
Yes.
This Father's Day.
Yes, in
both.
June. Yeah,
Okay.
this year at least. You know, moving forward, they'll probably reevaluate things and take the appropriate.
Now you're big on, you know, you post these stories. You're always on top of our Facebook page. Are you seeing one side more than the other represented in the comments and in what you're seeing online?
It's really interesting. I think, you know, we're seeing a lot of what I call self-regulating commenting, where you see one person have one point of view, and then many kind of either support it or offer like a different perspective on it. In this case, you know, what we're seeing are people saying, you know, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they're taking these types of events away from parents and their children who you know, they want to honor their parents, much to what some of our commenters are saying right now, like Mr. Tran.
Right.
Others are saying, well, maybe we can, you know, think about this a little harder. You know, is this necessarily because, you know, they're trying to make a political statement?
Yeah.
You know, maybe we need to think more about the context of the situation, what actually happened here. Before we jump to any kind of rash conclusions.
Well, I'm glad that you had an opportunity to talk to him. It sounds like there's still a lot that we aren't going to know for privacy reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But again, does it change, you know, your perspective a little, knowing that there was some sort of traumatic event happening again to a 6, 7, or 8-year-old?
Yeah, and knowing that Mr. Wilson's saying that he wasn't saying, but alluding to the fact that this isn't necessarily going to happen for eternity. This could just be because of this one incident. Yeah. So thanks again. Keep sounding off.
Josh, thank you for helping us out.
Thank you. Yes, for giving us that behind the scenes in this behind the scenes show.
And most of the time when something gets posted from our website to the Facebook page and those links come in,
there are human beings watching.
Josh is one of those people.
Yes.
So Josh, thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
So stay nice. Thanks, Josh. All right.